Hey y'all, SayItInTheCard.com is an online greeting card company with all occasion greeting cards. Child, from breakups to birthdays, Mother's Days to sympathy. And honey, for you girls with those troubled relationships and all them damn complications, they got a card for you too. Visit them at www.sayitintthecard.com. Once again, that's www.sayitintthecard.com. Right there, you can read the cards, order the cards, and wait for them to be shipped right to your front door. And remember, if you feel it, we can say it in the card. Ciao.
Good day, thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. I'm Craig the Writer Stewart, and this is So Much to Say YouTube TV. These are my thoughts in my voice on black shit, white shit, gay shit, and everything in between. So Much to Say YouTube TV is the place that you come to learn and grow, because we discuss socially relevant things mixed with a splash of humor. If you know you have tissue paper feelings, this probably isn't the channel for you. However, since you're here, I just need for you to do two things. Hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and turn on that little bell so that you get the notification every single time that I go live or upload something new. I'll see you soon. Bye. Hey girl, hey. Hey girl, hey. It's The Price is Right. Yes, please hit the like and subscribe button. Please hit the like and subscribe for life. Hey girl, hey. Hey boy, hey. Hey girl, hey. Hey Naturalista. Come on, Geraldine over in Chicago. Excuse me. Pardon me. Hey Thelma. Hey girl, hey. You should have gotten your tracking information. Your book was shipped. Hey girl, hey. I don't have my lighting here, so I'm a little darker than normal. Hey girl, hey. Let me get a little swallow of water. That water is so tasty. Good day, thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. Can you guys hear me? LaShonda, is that time to buy a ring light for your new house? Ooh, you all can't hear me? LaShonda said, what's wrong with your mic? Lovelace says she received her book. Okay, you all can hear me. Good day, thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. I'm Craig the Writer Stewart, and this is the Facebook and YouTube live versions of So Much to Say. These are my thoughts in my voice on black shit, white shit, gay shit, and everything in between. Tonight, we're talking about Chapter 7. Oh, I didn't put it down here, did I? I didn't type it down here. We're talking about Chapter 7. Let me type that in real quick, so no one will come in saying, what are we talking about tonight? Faith versus religion. Faith versus religion, niece. Oh, yes, and it's $5 Friday. Thank you all for the cash apps that have come through here. Amen. I was able to pay my light bill today. Look at God. If you don't have a copy of Book of Jewels, you can visit CraigTheWriterStewart.com and purchase your copy. If you'd like to come on and join the conversation tonight, you are welcome to. If you've read Chapter 7, you don't have to have the whole book read, but if you've read Chapter 7, I would love to hear your point of view. I have taken the liberty of highlighting certain sections of Chapter 7, not the entire thing, but certain sections that I wanted to be sure to highlight for you guys. I am uploading a new video tomorrow on YouTube channel, given that Oliver has it completed, but I'm giving you all my take on what happened on Red Table Talk today between Jada and Will. Thank you very much, Brittany, for putting that up there. So if you need to purchase Words Never Spoken, one thing for certain, two things for sure, So Much to Say, Book of Jewels, they're all available there, or you can download the Audible. Come on, Ricky. Ricky purchased his copy of Book of Jewels yesterday. Thank you very much, Ricky, my friend down in Houston. I see Andrew is in here. He's ready to come in. He's ready to come in. He has his notes. He has his notes, niece. You ready to come in?
Can you hear me?
Turn your internet down. I can hear me.
Oh, that's the phone. My bad.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Late? Why is it a delay?
I don't see a delay or feel a delay. That's your internet. Please hit the like and subscribe button on this video, please, and share it. Thank you. Let me do my little thank yous real quick. Juanesta is asking who needs a copy of Book of Jewels. I think she might be gifting tonight.
Hey, Portia. Hey, Lovelace. How are you?
Juanesta, thank you for the Cash App. My girl Jackie Cheatham, Kimberly Dooley, Mary Patwin, Marie. And I think that's it. No. I think my girl Jose Roble, Datis, my girl Datis, and Adriana and Kiop and Brittany. Looks like. Oh no, that was somebody else.
And we had some super chats this morning on the Maddie in the Morning. Thank you guys too.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, on yours. You had.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we thank you guys that sold, and then for everybody that sent me a Cash App, thank you.
They sent you a Cash App?
Don't worry about that. It's
Oh, the people are asking. Kamora is asking for a copy.
Let's see.
Brandon, Tika. Tanya says she's on chapter 2. Okay, so we're going to be talking about chapter 7 tonight. I'm going to drop the link down here one more time, just in case you guys want to join the conversation. This chapter is called Faith versus Religion. Now, this is one of those chapters that I had outlined 8 years ago when I first started writing Book of Jewels. Remember, I told you guys it took me about 7 or 8 years to write this book. I put the book down for a while. This was technically supposed to be my second book that I released, but I ended up releasing One Thing for Certain, Two Things for Sure, because I wasn't quite ready. I had the title, I had the chapter names, I had all of those things, but I just didn't know where to go in this particular chapter. Again, it's called Faith versus Religion. And I wanted to make the distinction between the two, because I think a lot of times, is the mic echoing? Is the mic echoing? LaTanya said, LaShonda said the mic is echoing. And see, I don't know. She also said that that she couldn't hear me. So I don't know if it if this is my stuff or if this is her shit that's not acting right. Is it echoing? Books said kinda. Okay, they say not anymore. Okay, not anymore. Okay, good. Perfect. So I wanted to make the distinction between religion and faith, because I think a lot of people confuse the two. So each chapter, as you guys know, it opens with an original quote that frames the chapter. That just kind of sets the tone for the chapter. Oh, my girl Felicia is here. Hey, girl. Hey.
She said she was coming on. Hey.
I said I'm a little late, but I'm here.
It's okay. We just got started. Wait, what city are you in?
I'm in Fort Washington.
Come on, Maryland. Fort Washington in Maryland. Yes.
Yeah. Prince George's County.
Yes. So as I was saying, like I outlined this chapter 7 years ago, but I did not know what I was going to write in it. And so the reason that this book took 7 or 8 years to write it, as I've said before, is because I had to grow into some of this stuff that I wrote. Like I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I had to live some more. So I'm going to start with the very first paragraph. It's on page 103. I'm going to let you guys jump in with whatever you guys wanted to talk about. It doesn't have to be from page 103. But the first thing that I wanted to outline for you guys is the very first paragraph. And it says, we all have the gift of intuitiveness, which is tied to our instincts. Our instincts are designed to guide us on our journey. And through every life decision, I do mean every life decision. But there's an art to really tapping into one's intuition. And more times than not, we ignore that internal guide because we get distracted by the voices in the world. Now, the voices in the world, it could be your coworkers, it could be your parents, it could be your siblings, it could be your best friend. Sometimes we fall off course because we get so preoccupied with the things that the people we love say or have to think. I've given you guys this example before. When I moved to California, when I was going to write my first book, I didn't know that's why I was moving there, but all of my friends, even Will, you guys know Chef Will, all of my friends were saying, oh, don't move. It's going to get better here in Atlanta. But there was something in my spirit. There was something in my soul that was telling me, no, you have got to go. I didn't know why I was going, but there was something that was in my spirit. But the people who loved me were like, no, don't leave. Just stay here. But go ahead. I'm listening.
Andrew,
You want to go? Okay, I was just leading way, and so no, I will say this is the first chapter in the book that I read and couldn't write right away. Like usually, I can read the chapters in the book and I'm just like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and da da da. But this one I had to read like 2 times because it was just the way you put this chapter together was a little. I was like. It was smart. It was clever. It was because I was like, okay, we're talking about faith and religion. Why is he going into instincts? Like the whole first page, 2 pages is in, and I'm just like, and so I saw how it connected. But the first thing that connected with me when I read it a second time is in the second paragraph where you say, it's simple. We allow the truth to be clouded with what we want, emphasis on the word we want it to be instead of seeing it for what it is. We fail to pay close enough attention to the signs, the almonds that tug on our spirit. And this goes in line with what I say, which is an unpopular opinion. When I tell people we're designed, when we're growing up, everybody says you can be whatever you want to be. And I challenge that a lot because I just don't believe, and the way I try, it's not and some people will disagree with me, but I just don't believe you can be whatever I believe that you have to be what you were destined to be, because there are a lot of things that I wanted to be, and I'm not that today, but I had to like kind of fall into the line of what I was and I love it here. I love it here where I am and things like that. And so when I read that, that kind of just reminded me of, that's the same thing, how our instincts work, letting go and saying, you know what, even though I want this path for my life or I want this to happen, it may not be the best for me at this time. And then I got over to, go ahead, VJ, before I get.
You can call, I should have typed my name. It's Valicia. You can call me Valicia or VJ. Okay. So I really enjoyed the chapter. I got my hard copy. Thank you, Craig. So I was able to put my note in.
Thank you.
But I really enjoyed the chapter. I'm a big believer of energy and ancestral energy. And I believe they speak to us and guide us often. And your inner voice is sometimes you, sometimes it's them. And that, and like you said, and in your connection with God, your spirituality. And so Craig's from the area, so he's probably familiar. I can recall a time last year being in Old Town. I was down in Old Town. I've always felt very connected to Old Town. I feel like that may be where my ancestors first arrived. And I've always felt a kinship there. And I was down there and I was meeting a girlfriend and I was sleepy. And I was like, I'm going to lay my head back for a second while I wait for her. And something said, don't do that. And it just kept saying, don't do that. Like, and so I was like, I'm so tired. Like, I just want to close my eyes for a second. And I didn't. And when I met with her and I were walking and talking, just catching up. And she said, why do you keep looking around? And I said, because something is not sitting right with me while we're down here. And I've never felt this before. And I had to tell myself, there's something telling me to get out of here and to not be down here tonight. I don't know why. And actually what it was, I'm not usually in town for Memorial Day weekend. And lo and behold, the Rolling Thunder and all of them come through here Memorial Day weekend. So it was leading into that. And I truly feel like my ancestors were protecting me from some sort of like racial tension or something down there, because there was a lot of them descended upon the city, and I'm just not normally here, so I wasn't even thinking about them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, this whole chapter was, and I know we'll get further into the chapter, but I joined a church for the first time in my adult life last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never felt inclined to join a church before. Vanessa, maybe our ancestors both came over here, right here in this area. But I joined Mount Enon in Clinton, and I've never felt inclined to be a part of a group of people, because I've always felt like your church is within you, and it was with the people. But I felt drawn to visit different churches, and when I went, that church spoke to me because the pastor there is very connected to the community and does not believe a separation of church and community. He's like, this is your responsibility as a church body. And so I joined for the first time. I felt the need to be a part of a collective, to be more not in tune with my spiritual voice, but using my spiritual voice to be a part of a collective, if that makes sense. And so that is why I decided to join. But I'm 40, and I've never been a part of a church before.
You know, there was something that you said that was so interesting. Like when you said you felt like there was a spirit and there was a pulling saying to do not go to sleep. That is what I'm talking about. That's that inner voice. That's that same inner voice that will tell you to leave a relationship. That's the same inner voice that will tell you to move to a different career or leave your job because something is coming down the pipeline, and then you don't move to a new job or a new company and you get downsized. It's that same inner voice that caused me to move to LA that I was talking about with Will. And I kept saying to him, there's something telling me I have to go. It's that same inner voice that will tell you to turn this way, and you don't turn that way, and then you end up in a car accident. That happened to me in 12th grade. You know, it's that inner voice. I really, truly believe that your instincts, your intuition, that's God speaking to you directly. That's your connectedness to God. And it's your roadmap through life, through every single major decision. And a lot of times we ignore that inner voice because we get so caught up. Again, we're so obedient to family or whomever it is that makes an impression in your life, like whoever raised you, whether it was your grandmother or whatever. Like we're so inclined to listen to that best friend. Like we trust the voices in the world before we trust our own instincts. And so to your point, Andrew, I wanted to start this chapter talking about instincts because I believe that your instincts are the same thing that will guide you to God. It will guide you to God. You know, and a lot of times people look to their pastor, and then people are so devastated when their pastor falls from grace. Oh my God, I can't believe, you know, it's like, girl, listen, he was just a conduit.
Yeah, you talk about that in this. Yeah,
he was just a conduit. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to like really, really make that distinction. But Andrew, I know were you about to jump to another page?
I was, and I'm just going to jump in right here. And I've never felt so close to my faith or to God. I was never that close until I left the church, until I left and I always say, I believe the reason why I had such a tough time, I was on a mental health panel recently last month, and I said the reason why I had a tough time growing up and struggling, this is just my story, is because I tried to take the gift that God had given me and shrink it to be used on a platform as a church or a pulpit or a microphone. And so I think when I actually took off the blindfold, and this is not everyone's story, but it's mine. When I left the church, that's when my faith, that was the faith versus religion. That's when my faith in God was able to be maximized to a point where I can speak something and not want to take it back from fear that it's not going to happen. Because my faith is to that level where I believe what I speak, even though I have no evidence, you talk about on page 105 at the top, faith is an extension of our intuition, our instincts. Faith is knowing, hear me now, knowing what you know, even when there's no proof. And so my faith has gotten to the level where I can speak a thing without seeing it happen. And that only came when I disconnected myself from what people wrote in a book, from what people wrote on the rules. This is how you have to dress, and this is how you have to say it, and this is the way you need to go. And if you don't do it this way, then we won't give you a platform. When we understand that that man could never give you a platform that you were destined to get, your platform is bigger than what man can create for you. And I think a lot of times, because we feel like we need that platform, I need to go through the pastors. I need to go. This is the only way I'm going to be heard. But you got to understand that the Spirit, God, whatever, has a platform that's bigger than what you can imagine.
And that's why my prayer, one of my consistent prayers, is guide my steps. You know, what is it that you'll have me do next? What are the next best steps? I say those things all the time. What are the next best steps? Especially when I'm in a quandary and I'm just like, what are the next best steps? Like, how do I see my way out of this? You know, show me what you would have me do next.
And I just want to say before we end that I'm not saying I don't believe in the church, like going to a physical building. I still, participate in that. But since I've left and come back, you won't get me back again into that religious, ministers have to sit this way, sit in this side of the church. Like
into the rules. It's the rules.
Yeah, the rules.
That's religion. God and spirituality have nothing to do with rules. Rules are all about religion. Women can't wear makeup. Women can't pastor. Women can't wear pants. That's rules. God isn't interested in any of that stuff. That's man-made stuff. And so on page 104, in the second paragraph, it's technically the very first paragraph, the full first paragraph, I say intuition is also that eerie feeling we get just before something tragic or traumatic happens to us or around us. You ever had an instance where the day is moving kind of funny, and then you get a phone call, and when that phone rings, you automatically know it's bad news. Either somebody's died, something tragic is on the other end of that call. That's your instincts. That's your instincts. It's just a knowing.
Yeah, it's a deep feeling in your gut. You get it, and then as soon as you get on the phone, it's like, I knew something was going to happen. It happens all the time, and I think it happens more than we even know it. That's why I tell my family members, I'm like, start writing things down, because sometimes we'll feel a thing or something, and then 2 weeks later, what we thought or what we felt will manifest, but we don't have the proof because we're thinking, is that deja vu and everything like that. Craig, is there a reason why in the corner?
Yeah, why is that up there?
I'm just just being the number one moderator.
I appreciate that.
Didn't mean to interrupt. We love Will, but this is not the writer.
This is not that channel. This is not for that. Okay, perfect. There we go.
So, Craig, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Finding Laura said, just purchased my first book. Hey, girl, hey. And look, Books for Life. No, what is it? Books for Lit Souls. Yes, all of my books are on Kindle. I saw your comment earlier. But go ahead, Valicia. And I just realized I've been calling you. No, it's Valicia. I've been calling you Valicia.
That's okay. Yes, that's okay. So you went back to that and saying it's those unexplained feelings, and I underline that when you can't trust a person. And there's not a jacked up relationship that I've had yet that I didn't know that it was going to go to the left the moment that Negro opened his mouth.
And you ignored it. You ignored it. We've all done it. You know what
There's a quote that says, my instincts alone are enough for me to walk away.
That's right in the book of quotes. I think that's in the book of quotes. My instincts alone are enough. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people want tangible proof of why they shouldn't trust a person or why, they should leave a relationship. They need tangible proof because they want to be able to say, oh, Valicia, we got out of a relationship because he cheated or because I went through his phone and he touched that or he put his hands on me. My instincts alone are enough for me to walk away. I don't need tangible proof. Oftentimes we want a tangible reason because we want to be able to tell people when they ask, oh, what happened to your relationship? Oh, girl, well, this what happened. No, my answer now is, oh, it just didn't feel right anymore. It no longer felt good to my spirit. And that's enough.
And that is enough.
Enough.
There doesn't need to be, no, this is why, or that's enough. That's the end of the answer.
Because I don't need your approbation. Come on, somebody. Go ahead, Andrew. Where you
Absolutely.
going next? Or Valicia? Valicia. I'm gonna have to keep programming
You
myself.
gotta see. I know it's okay. So really quick, there was scroll down, still on page 104, when you say, "I believe we can use our instincts to summon someone into our life just by thinking about them."
Mm-hmm.
So my therapist turned me on to Abraham Hicks, and I don't know if anybody else ever listens to Abraham Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrestle back and forth with them because I don't mean to offend anybody. These two older white folks, but the premise of a lot of what they're saying is about that manifestation, and not saying, well, if I got that job, when I get that job, and actually thinking about the things that you dream about that make you smile. Like as soon as you start talking about it, you're smiling.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that's where you need to be, and manifesting that and saying in those people, the ideal mate that you have for yourself, thinking about him or her or whomever that is as if they are already there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you will draw that the same as you draw that negative energy by ignoring yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk yourself and that person into your life. And I am a absolute firm believer. So whoever it is or wherever he is, I talk about you regularly.
Come on.
Listen.
I have you on my mind.
And here's my thing for you, Valicia.
Yes.
When he shows up, don't second guess it. Don't question it. Because see, sometimes when that person shows up, we second guess it because it's what they call a foreboding love. It's like we question and we doubt that it's even possible for us. How is it that I have something that's so perfect and no one around me has something this unique? You got to trust it and believe it when it shows up. And it is not just about a person. For those of you that are listening, it's not even just about it could be your business. You could see a business in your mind. It can manifest. And this is why last year, or at the beginning of this year, going into this year, is why I was so hard pressed for us to come together and do a vision board. Because when you put those things on your vision board, that stuff can listen. You got to see it. You got to write it down, write it, say it, do it, believe it, and it will show up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there really is truth in that. But if you're a person that doubts and you always pessimistic and you think, oh, that's not going to happen. Oh, okay, well, no, it's not going to happen. Your thoughts create your destiny. Your thoughts create your destiny. So like, if you can see it, you can have it, but you got to see it first. Go ahead, Andrew. Where'd you want to go?
And speak it. And I'm gonna go to my next point, but it's see it and speak it. And remember this, because we forget so quickly. Don't expect your peers to be your cheerleaders. Don't expect the ones that are closest to you to get the vision. That's what faith is. Faith is, I don't know. And a lot of people that are not operating in faith and do operate in religion or what has always happened, they won't see it. They won't understand how you're putting in time to do this. They won't understand. A lot of people may have not understood, Craig. What you mean you're going to get on the camera and sit there and say, hey, girl, hey, boy, what are you talking about? Like, how is that going to manifest? But you have to see it. You have to believe it and understand that's all that's all it takes. With the religion part, this fly, I feel like medicine this morning. I never have flies in my hand now. But one of the things I wanted to go to, here it is. You talk about your maternal grandmother, which it's always precious when you talk about moments like that. She taught you religion, right? Yeah. And so I thought about how my grandmother was still living, and she brought us up in that holiness of the holies. Go to church Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. You know, no cussing. Don't Pokemon on the TV. What kind of TV you're watching? You're going to hell. You know, just all of that. I was brought up in that strict. And today, for me to have gone through what I've gone through and now be able to sit with my grandmother and say, Grandma, I know this is what you were taught, but can I offer you some information that shows you that this makes no sense? And I think the one part that I won her over was when everybody, you got a lot of people in the quote unquote church who quote things that are not even in the Bible. but they'll quote it like it's in the Bible.
Because it was taught to them. It was taught to them. It was
taught,
passed down.
And so everybody get on the microphone. They say, he won't put no more on you than you can bear. He won't put no. So I went to her. I said, Grandma, you know that's not in the Bible. And she said, what you talking about? It's in the Bible, child. He won't put no more on you than you can bear. I said, Grandma, there's no scripture in the Bible that says he will not. I say, in fact, sometimes he does let it get too heavy so that you can cast your cares upon him and he will, thank you, religion versus rituals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. And so for me, now we have conversations and it's more of an informative versus my nickname is Poppy. She was like, Poppy, you gonna believe this? And that's what you gonna believe. Now it's more of a, okay, I understand. Yeah, you're right. And some of the scriptures, as you said in the book, and I'll close with this, some of it was what had to be during slavery. I mean, men obey your slave masters. I mean, do what your slave. And so I was reading some of it getting angry. I'm like, come on, this cannot be. This sound like a writer. As you said, some of the writers, you can feel the genuine from their heart, like how they were in it. But some of them writers were caught up in flesh.
Yeah, yeah. And so the first thing that you said was how my grandmother taught me religion. I was very specific in how I worded that because she didn't just teach me to pray. My grandmother taught me to pray, but she was the one who taught me religion. Somebody just said the rituals, because like I would pray every single night, which I did, which is nothing wrong with that because I do believe in that connectedness. I believe that prayer is your link to a higher power. But once I prayed, her thing was, no, you can't watch television. You need to go to sleep. Turn the TV off. You need to go to sleep. And it was just even like this whole idea of like singing while you're eating at the table. Now it's rude, but I don't think God really cares. Like, I don't think it's, there's nothing blasphemous about it. It's just rude to sing at the dinner table. You know what I'm saying? But we get caught up in these rituals and these ideas of what someone has told us and passed down to us that supposedly God frowns upon. And that stuff isn't true. Those are just things. Those are just urban myths. And I can't even just say they're urban myths, but they're religious myths, And so in the middle of page 105, it's the third paragraph. I say religion, not to be confused with spirituality or God, has helped and hurt us as a people. I would even venture to say that religion can be tied to all that's right and wrong in the Black community, reaching all the way back to slavery. And then I say religion, like slavery, is a system of control. It's always been steeped in power, control, and ownership. Religion was used, this is the last paragraph, religion was used to justify, manage, and control slaves. Religion was the only thing that the colonizers allowed African slaves to have. Everything else was taken away from them, their families, education, their language, and of course, their freedom. One of the only freedoms African slaves were allowed was the ability to practice Christianity. Now, why do you think that is? They took everything else from us, but they let us practice religion all day, all night, every day of the week.
They let us practice their religion.
Come on, somebody.
Because it says obey your master.
Yes. Because that page on 105, all up and through there, where you talk about the African slaves, and that we had our own spirituality,
yes,
and a version of a religion. But that quote from Desmond Tutu is everything.
Go ahead and read it for me.
All right. We're often blinded by religion, as quoted famously by Desmond Tutu. When the missionaries came to Africa, they had the Bible and we had the land. They said, let us pray. We closed our eyes. When we opened them, we had the Bible and they had the land.
Because they seduced us. They sold us on this idea of religion. They sold us on, like, we had all of Africa. We had all of Africa. And then they came, they started talking that Christianity, talking about God and their God. And then next thing we know, they took all of the land from us and we got stuck holding their religion. They're not as committed to their religion as we are. We're more committed to their religion than they are. And so again, so I say this to people all of the time. I'm not against God or spirituality. I'm just not really so. As I've become a fully formed, critically thinking person, I started to question, what I was taught from what I know to be true for myself. My girl Selena just gifted 4 copies of Book of Jewels. Juanesta gifted 2 copies prior to that. So I have 6 copies that I'm going to gift. So the first 6 people that drop in my email box, not my inbox on Instagram or Facebook, but email me directly through my website, I'll gift you those first 6 books. But yeah.
Yep, you're absolutely correct. And I know I have to remind myself when we were physically going to the church, because the church that I attend now is definitely a come as you are.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still things that are ingrained in me from little girl and vacation Bible school. And I'd never put on pants when I get ready to go to church. And it's not, I know better now, but it's just these things that I've been taught for so long that it would not, and not no naked legs, definitely not. I have on stockings, like.
She said naked legs. Yes, somebody. Yeah.
But these are the things, and I know, and I am a fully formed person and can think critically about things. But we have to remind ourselves that these things were taught and there were foundations laid, and we do inherently start to react. These are learned behaviors, and we have to work to actively uncondition ourselves.
Undo that.
Yes. And it's an effort.
It takes effort. It takes effort. And to your point, it's not just Christianity per se. It's in all sectors of religion. Jewish people have their things. Jehovah's Witness have their things. I remember going to elementary school with Jehovah's Witness, and I remember one of the girls, she always wore dresses. Even in gym class, she had to wear a dress because her religion said little girls and women did not, wear pants. What does that have to do with God or spirituality? That's religion. Those are things that were put into place to control people. Go ahead, Andrew.
And the hypocrisy of it all, because and I can only speak about the Christian faith because that's what I seen backhand, and it's just the hypocrisy because you have one group of people from old back in the day where like you said, the dresses were all the way down to the floor. You couldn't show anything, and no makeup, no earrings, no any. And then as they progressed, this is how you can tell it's man-made, because now as you progress, you pick and choose what's now acceptable and what's not. Because before the dresses were down, but okay, now you can show a little ankle. Now we really want to put on makeup because we realize we want to look better. Now, okay, we'll allow the earrings. We'll allow, because before you couldn't wear jeans at all in the church.
Right.
Now you can wear a jean skirt.
They call it come as you are.
Yeah, and so the hypocrisy of it all is what we have to learn how to just take away from. And then you talk about in the book about the millennials, which we are. I want to also give a shout out. I don't know if we have any Gen Zs that are watching, because they're really the ones that we millennials are looking at. The Gen Zs are no tolerance at all. And they are, you having a conversation with a generation of Z is just like, you're going to talk about the universe, you're going to talk about spirits and emotions. And I just love to see the individuality and them standing up and really challenging. And honestly, if you really sit down and read some of the stuff, it just don't make sense. Some of the rules and things like that, when you really, but it becomes they make it a sin or blasphemy to even question certain things, to use your human sense to say, in the real, in world, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I want to give Valencia a chance before I jump back in. Did you want to jump in with something?
No, when he just said it doesn't make sense. You're correct. However, it makes perfect sense if you need to find a reason to marginalize somebody else. If you need to find a reason to keep your foot on somebody else's neck, it makes perfect sense. It's the perfect recipe.
And what's interesting too is how we've seen a shift in how religion is used. Religion at one point was used to control by white folks to control African slaves. Now we see Black folks using religion to control other Black folks, dictating what you put in the church offering, dictating and seducing you to give these love offerings to the pastor, or to put in to contribute to the building fund, or to make a sacrificial offering, because if you can't bless God's house, then he's not going to bless your house. So you're guilted into giving, into doing all of this stuff. And so on page 107, third paragraph, I say, I think the vast majority of people are afraid of religion because they feel forced to pretend to be someone they're not. They feel forced to be rigid or perfect. They feel forced to live up to a standard that man put into place, not God. Yeah. y'all quiet.
No, because I kept reading because I'm like, wait, that sounded good. And so it just reminded me of when you say that there's a lot of things said across the pulpit that they themselves are not living. Again, this is not I grew up in the church. So I saw some people, like, I know a lot about the church world, the different denominations. I've spoke at a lot of them. I started at a very young age, singing at 7, preaching at 11. So I get it. I've been to a lot of churches, but a lot of people, I found that a lot of preachers and people that had that platform were not speaking things that they themselves were practicing. And then so you have a lot of people trying to live up to false living. And so what happens? I'm depressed now, or I try to commit suicide because I'm trying to attain or live up to this status that the preacher is not being honest with me, saying, listen, I can't even get here.
Standard.
Standard, yeah. A standard that is not true. That is fictitious.
And one that they're not even living up to. And I think what happens is a lot of times, like your religious zealots, the people who are like these new Christians that are, I think a lot of times they have this sort of disdain towards those of us that are not so, I guess, committed to going to the church and doing all of these things, because they really secretly want to be able to live their own freedoms and live their own lives too. And they resent you because you're not.
Let's not talk about that.
You know what I mean? Because you're not feeling convicted.
Listen, when I came out in my truth, and when I came back to the church and said, look, this is Andrew, that's when I got they hated to see me coming. Some of them still, because they're like, he talks, people know who he is. I took off that blindfold. I have been going many years preaching and living another way. But when I came out and said, you know what, I'm going to do this thing for real, they could not take me. They would not invite me. When I walked into the concert, everybody was like, oh, Lord, what are you going to do? Because they felt like being somebody that true would start to uncover the things that they were covering up. That was never my goal or mission. I knew a lot of stuff going on in the church. I knew a lot of people that were pretending and doing things on their wives. But I was never that person. You know how some people get angry and I'm going to cover it all. I'm going to tell it. I was never that person, but you couldn't tell them that because their fear, because I was so honest and true, they feared I can't get close to him because my radar may start off.
Yeah, I had underlined that piece where you said they feel forced to live up to a standard that man put into place, not God. And it's impossible. You will have a pastor preaching hell and damnation, and meanwhile got 3 full babies in the church, by members other than his wife, the first lady.
Go ahead.
No, go.
I was gonna say, it's interesting, and this is not about me just throwing people out there because this stuff is public knowledge, but I just believe in using examples to illustrate a point. But that very same thing happened with Jamal Bryant. I'm from Baltimore, and that happened in Baltimore. Like, he used to preach so much about adultery and affair, and I believe that a lot of times when these pastors preach on a specific topic and they stay on it, it's because they're struggling with it themselves. And so he used to talk about it all the time. And then sure enough, he has some sort of out of marriage, out of wedlock kind of child that kind of happened, but we never really figured out what happened with the baby. Like, did the girl have the baby with some underage girl, supposedly? Did the girl ever have the baby? Did there was rumors swirling that perhaps they paid her to have an abortion. Then there were other rumors that she lost the baby. I mean, like, we just never know what happened. But we do know that Giselle, who's on Housewives of Potomac, she left him because of this affair. Same scenario with Eddie Long. When Eddie Long had that scandal going on with those 6 or 7 underage boys, Black folks at his church that were brainwashed didn't want to believe that it was true. But these 6 or 7 boys, only 2 or 3 of them knew each other. The other ones were complete strangers, but they had almost identical stories of how he seduced them. Now, how can 2 or 3 people who don't know each other tell the same lie on you? Same kind of scenario that happened with James Cleveland back in the day. For those of you who may not know, see, there's a pattern. Same kind of story that happened with James Cleveland. He was adopting boys, and he was supposedly, working with young boys who were gifted in musical ministry. And he was supposed to have been, somebody said the girl had the baby and it's a little girl. Okay. But that's why I say good day thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. But same thing with James Cleveland. Like, he had this music ministry and he was supposed to be helping young boys who were gifted in music, and he was seducing those boys. One of the boys was his adopted son, and he infected the young boy with HIV. But these are the kind of things that we sometimes get lost in, because I'm just speaking about Black folks, but because as Black folks, we get so caught up in religion that we don't question anything, because we've been taught from the time that we were children to question the church, to question a man or woman of God. So that's why they're able to pull the wool over our eyes. And I remember reading an article years ago. This is when that Eddie Long thing first started to crumble. And I'll never forget, there was an article that I read, and it was just talking about how of the most educated of us that have these higher degrees, these higher, make all of this great money, we'll go to these mega churches. We'll sit in we'll park our luxury cars in the parking lot of these mega churches. But we also park our brains, leave our brains parked in the car, because we come into these churches and don't question, well, where is this money going? Nobody questions where the money is going. You tithing and giving, every time you look up the plates coming through. And you're not questioning and asking, where is this money going? Because somewhere inside of you, you've been conditioned to believe that it's blasphemous to question the church. And so that's what this whole chapter is meant to do. Is meant to challenge you in everything you think you believe and know about religion and God and spirituality and just all of those things.
And the fact is, if you have a relationship with him, he will make these things, because I thought about it. It's so, can't fault, when I look at my grandmother, I'm just like, you've known this all your life. This is all you know. And so you can see how difficult it can be. But when you actually have it would have been me too. I went 20 plus years still with that. Yes, this is the way, even though I knew it was not agreeing with who I was. And so when you have that, I think a lot of people know so much about him and don't know him. They read about him, and they, there's if you want to bring up Bible, they talk about the Martha versus the Mary spirit. Martha did so much for Jesus, but Mary chose the better part because she just sat by him, And so I think a lot of times we try to do so much for the religion, and I want to be there, I want to be seen, I want to wear white on first Sunday, I want to be there with the communion, but we don't take time in our personal lives to actually know, because it's when I took time and said, I want to know who you are. You say religion on 109, the second paragraph, you say religion is the handiwork of man. Spirituality is our relationship with God. All right. It's that 101. What is you have to spend time with a person to know him. You have to sit there and commune. You have to talk to a person, and it's an everyday relationship. It is. And that's how I get mad sometimes. I get upset sometimes. I don't. And that's what a relationship is.
And you also say in that same paragraph, ministers, rabbis, priests, and other religious leaders are lauded for their speaking abilities, but their ability to quote religion doesn't always equate to anointing. And that right there, In the words of Chi Chi,
Yes.
message, ho.
Yeah, message.
Because that right there, the fact that we think that they somehow have a different line than we do to God, make it make sense.
Yeah.
Why is your line any different than mine?
And that's it. It's like,
Come on.
like what makes a pastor or a minister more connected to God than you?
Yeah. Because the God that you tell me about and the one that I know doesn't think you're any more special than I am.
Exactly.
And so it makes no sense. And they can quote the Bible. And I was, I know I went to vacation Bible school. I still got a little bit in me. But, and there are pieces, and you go into this that feel pure. There are things that you're like, okay. I can even think of Revelations when I think about when they talk about the end of days and we start seeing some of the signs, of what that would look like. Some of that can make sense for me, but I refuse to believe God in his teachings was like, you know what? I think I also need to call out you Jezebels. Like, I just don't think that was the case. I just, I just don't foresee that happening. And so it doesn't make any sense. And it is so important to question. And you have to know that if you are in a church body that stifles your voice, or any group, any body, if you're in a friend group, if you're in a family that stifles who you are and won't allow you to ask questions, there's a reason for that. And that's not somebody you want to be associated with. That's not something you want to be associated with, because you're supposed to question.
Absolutely. Any critical thing, and what I know for sure is when you go to church, you should go there feeling, once you leave, you should feel restored. You should feel renewed. And I think oftentimes people feel badgered, and at the top of page 109, I say religion is the reason that most LGBTQ people believe that their sexuality puts them on the wrong side with God. Basically, religion throws so many people away. People who man deems as not living or walking the straight line. And I just don't believe that that's what God intended. And so one of the few times that I felt really, really annoyed by church, this was many years ago. I had attended New Birth, Eddie Long's church. This is before the scandal and all of that. And I'll never forget, they had a whole PowerPoint presentation up on the screen. And they were trying to move from their original church. They were just moving into the new church, but they weren't done. They hadn't finished furnishing it. They were still building. They were still talking about putting down carpet in the other building. And I remember them saying that it was going to cost like $60 million to finish this church. They had already raised 20. They had gotten 10 from the sale of their old church. And they had raised like 10 from tithes and offering and stuff like that. And I remember them saying, we shouldn't have to go to Bank of America to get this money to finish this church. We got enough right in here. We should be able to do this right here in this building. God can't bless your house until you bless his house. And I remember just thinking, like, building a $60 million church is not the thing that's going to make God smile. If they had taken that same 60 million and poured back into the church, because all I kept thinking was, how many people here have children in college, or how many college students are here that are taking out loans? Why couldn't that money be funneled right back into this church to these people, whether you were a member or not, to go ahead and fund these kids to go to college, or people who may have been working on their job for 10, 12, 15 years and they were laid off and they were at risk of losing their home. Pay those people's mortgage off. Like, why? Like, what? That money should have been better spent. For a church.
Right. What's wrong with the current building? Nothing's wrong with the current building, but we need a $60 million building in order for you to get this word.
That was the last time I went to that church. That was the last time I went there, because I just felt like, and with all of the things that I've said about Jamal Bryant, truth, But what I will say is he has, when he was in Baltimore, he was always doing something to at least pour back into that community. He would have young mothers come up and he would say, is there anybody in here that's, a mother, like Mother's Day or whatever? And he would say, if you need help paying your rent, come on up here. We're going to pay. Like they would always do different things like that. I mean, he would do they would take guns off the street. Let you come and donate your gun and no questions asked, just trying to remove guns from the street. I think that's what the church is supposed to be there for. But
agreed. I know that. Well, last year, gosh, it seems like it was an eternity ago, but it was just last year during the government shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
And in DC metropolitan area, the majority of us are government workers or government contractors.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my church, there were others that did it, but my church definitely immediately opened up the food pantries and they continued. It was like 3 or 4 months after the shutdown.
Yeah.
Because they said people are still trying to get back on their feet. And you didn't have to be a member. You didn't have to do any tap dancing song or check in the tithe list. I know Juanessa said something about, some churches requiring you to give their W-2s. And if you don't, pay this amount, then you're not eligible for the benefits of the church. And that is not what it was ever meant to be. And like you said, Jamal Bryant has done some great things. He, like so many others, why we look at him sideways is because you still get up there and preach that same hell, damnation, and this is what you have to do and all of that and all that religion.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be better served if you just got up there and spoke to the people and used your gift to be able to bring people together and your gift of charisma for the good of the people instead of what it is that you choose to do, because you're not balancing it out. Those performative actions of paying somebody's rent, of the single mother, when you told her that she ain't worth shit because she had sex and ended up with a bastard child, like you can't do the same. You can't have it both ways. So,
well, Andrew, did you have any final words? Did you guys have any final words? We're right at an hour now. And my girl Lovelace said, what's the saying? It's communication is our partner. Clarity is our friend.
No, I was just excited to read this because, I feel like a great part of my life has been that battle of religion versus the religion versus faith. And I'm excited to say that I know where I stand today. I try to have empathy for those who have not yet come into the knowledge of who they are. And because I get it, I was on that other side. I was a cheerleader, come to Christ, come to church, join the church, pay your tithes. But when I woke up, I tried to, for those of us that have woken up and that have that relationship, it's very important to talk about it and to not be ashamed to talk about, because a lot of people feel like you have to have this you have to go to church to talk about the things of the church or to talk about talk about your relationship wherever you want to. And don't be ashamed to talk about your relationship. Don't let people shut you up. Just because I don't go to church as much as you do, I don't pay tithes, or I don't do all of the religious acts that you did, or I'm a man and I love a man, or I'm a woman and I love a woman, just because that is my truth does not mean I can't talk about the things of Christ, God, whatever religion you believe in. Stand in it, stand bold, and start to create spaces where people just like you. I did that. I had a call where, my cousins, people would even come over to my house, weed in the hand, drinks. We would be drinking, talking about the things of God, talking about how great God was. Sometimes we would be drunk, but we would still have that, it's a spiritual experience. And I made it my business to create those type of spaces, because the church says come as you are, but they don't really want people to come as they are, as we've seen in the tabloids and things like that. So yeah, thank you, Craig, for another great chapter.
Thank you. All right, well, listen. Did you have something that you wanted to say, Felicia, before I close out?
Just thank you. I'm so excited that 4 people are going to get blessed with their very own copy of Book of Jewels. Oh, 6 people.
Yeah. Selena gifted 4, and then Juanesta cash at me for 2. So the first 6 people I'm going to gift Book of Jewels.
Well, for those who did not, I hope you will pick it up. You can highlight this like the people do their Bibles, and walk around with it with, dog-eared pages and write in
Yes.
the creases, all of that.
Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
but thank you. I'm excited. I'm here, Andrew and Craig. I said I was going to be here. Thank y'all for letting me join in on y'all's Book of Jewels
It's
conversation.
not my.
Yes, you did say you were going to be here. I was shocked when you popped out. I was like, all right, somebody.
Yes, absolutely. I did. I'm glad we started these again. I think this really is an amazing book.
Thank
And
you so much.
thank you for writing it. Thank you for sharing it with us and then giving us this platform to be able to engage with you about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'm telling you, like, there were moments where I thought that maybe I would just scrap the book. You know what I'm saying? But I'm really glad, because so many people were like, well, when's your next book coming out? Thinking that it was going to be another novel, like about my life or a novel, like or fiction, But I was just like, I just hope they're ready for this book. Like, I have some things that I want to say, you know what I'm saying? So I'm hoping that they're going to receive this. And so I'm glad you guys received it. You enjoy it. Excuse me. And thank you for bringing me back to these conversations.
Yeah, I just want to say my credit. Facebook did not give not one book tonight. That was all YouTube. So just wanted to put
that. Andrew said no one on Facebook gifted.
And in that honor, and on YouTube, I'm going to give one more book. So 7 people.
Okay. So the first 7 people that email me, somebody was asking what's my email address. You can either go directly to the email address that's scrolling at the bottom, or just go straight to my website, craigtheregistered.com, and you can send an email from there. But the first 7 people, I will make sure you tell me your name and your shipping address. Your name and shipping address. All right. And then I'll just sign it and ship it out to you. But anyway, guys, you have an amazing weekend. Brush your teeth, floss your teeth, brush your tongue, because ain't anybody trying to kiss you with no nasty tongue. So when that man or woman shows up in your life, you don't want to run them away. All right. Have a safe weekend. Be safe, y'all. All right. Bye.